It's an almost invisible crisis that threatens our food security, our health, and the quality of our atmosphere. The collapse of biodiversity risks wiping out 1 million living species. To talk about this danger and possible solutions, we meet the European Commissioner for the Environment, Virginijus Sinkevičius.
Commissioner Sinkevičius, hello, and thank you for answering our questions.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Let me start with the deal agreed recently by the EU institutions to ban products linked to deforestation. How is it going to impact people's daily lives, and how will it matter for biodiversity?
Now Europeans will know that when buying chocolate, coffee in the stores, they will know that these products, they're coming from the land that is not associated with deforestation, so not from deforested land. And I think this is our pride, and this is our credibility to ensure that we and our consumption patterns here in Europe do not drive forest losses around the globe. But we also have a credible legislation which ensures that our trading or to say our consumption does not drive the processes.
Biodiversity should be at the center stage of international concern because of UN's COP15 summit in Montreal that you will be attending. But it is not in spotlight as COP27 that just took place last month. How can you explain this lack of interest?
I think it's not a lack of interest, maybe more of a lack of awareness and understanding. With climate, we are probably 10 years ahead than where we are with biodiversity policies. Climate is much easier to even negotiate and understand. First of all, you have this overarching goal of 1.5 degrees, which, everyone on the street can relate to and understand very well. Secondly, I think, Paris made, the awareness of climate increase a lot because it was a historic agreement. And so there is always, I think, additional attention from media, from policymakers, from the civil society. So are you delivering on those huge promises that you have made, which gave us hope? So I think all that combined is there. For biodiversity, we're not yet there. We still need an overarching goal, something similar to 1.5 degrees. We still, don't have society's understanding what is biodiversity. Everyone, might have a completely different opinion, and I think too often people go into explanation that it's something just about environment. To be honest, it's about, humans, first of all, and the health of our planet.
In the face of so many current crises, isn't there a sort of climate fatigue?
You can have it, and you can be tired of it, and probably sometimes it looks like there is not immediate attention, but it didn't disappear and it didn't go anywhere. So, COVID-19 had a tragic impact on our society with the number of deaths, but we were lucky to have a vaccine. Now we have a situation of war, which of course puts our immediate attention to it, but you also have a pressure on our economy with, energy bills rising up, inflation increasing, and etc. But one day there will be a peace treaty, hopefully sooner than later. For biodiversity crisis, for climate crisis, there won't be vaccine or a peace treaty. So we have to advance those policies. Sometimes they might not get the immediate attention. Sometimes they might be a very complicated, but I think we have proven already many times that 2019 decision of introduction of the European Green Deal has been the correct one. And even now in the background of war and energy crisis, we see that the solution is the Green Deal, actually. The development of renewables, ensuring that they are, the projects are actually put out as fast as possible.
What are the EU's goals for this COP15?
So firstly, of course, we need a global agreement. We need a deal. But it has to be ambitious, so it has to have a 30 by 30 goal, which I think can be equivalent to 1.5 degrees, or the Paris moment, where we have agreed protection of 30% of land territories and 30% of marine territories. That's not going to be enough. Secondly, of course, we need to ensure at least 20% of nature restoration efforts to be deployed by the year 2030 and by the year 2040. Overall, by 2050, we need to stop human-induced biodiversity loss, and that has to be our overarching goal. Last but not least, funding. Funding will be, as always, tricky question, which will require lots of emphasis from all parties. But I think what's most important is to ensure that we don't have a gap as regards the funding and implementation of the goals agreed, because we are already 2 years behind. We're talking about the framework up to 2030, which had to be agreed post-2020.
About financing, don't you fear to see the same rift between Global North and Global South, like we've seen during COP27?
Inevitably, that split is going to be there, and as always, one side will be saying that if you want us to do more, you need to put more on the table. On the other side, we have a situation where the economic situation is way different than what we had, 2 years. So it's, of course, very difficult to put additional money on the table. I'm proud that EU, again, we will have a credible position. We have pledged that we will double our expenditures for the biodiversity, and we have done that. I'm also very thankful to France, Germany, who did so as well. We need other developed countries, of course, to step it up. But what's very clear, and we have to be realistic, it's never going to be enough of money that are raised. But what we have to do is to use them effectively.
How much money is needed and where this money would come from?
It's, of course, as I said, difficult to say how much money is needed. You have different estimations, and as I always say, it still probably wouldn't be enough. There are countries who are calling for 100 billion per year. I think it's at this moment is absolutely unrealistic. So, because if you look where the money come from, so the countries' pledges and country funds or EU fund, they come mainly from the development budgets. Now, we have to ensure that using the current funding mechanism, we also tap into a possibilities from other sources, philanthropies, in investment banks, especially international ones. I think all they have to play a crucial role, also adding additional funding, private sector too. So there is a potential of additional funding. I think the current funding mechanism can be open for that, and that will be also one of the topics during the negotiations.
Commissioner Sinkevičius, thank you for answering our questions.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me.